Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. The Grey film. The Grey is a 2011 British-American survival thriller film co-written, produced and directed by Joe Carnahan and starring Liam Neeson, Frank Grillo and Dermot Mulroney. It is based on the short story Ghost Walker by Ian MacKenzie Jeffers, who also co-wrote the screenplay with Carnahan. The story follows a number of oil men stranded in Alaska after a plane crash who are forced to survive using little more than the wits, as a pack of grey wolves stalk them amidst mercilessly cold weather. Plot: John Otway works in Alaska killing wolves that threaten an oil drilling team. On his last day on the job he shoots one. That evening Otway writes a letter without purpose to his wife Anna explaining his plans to commit suicide. He hears a distant wolf howl and doesn't follow through. The next day Otway and other oil drillers board a plane. During the flight Otway dreams of sleeping with his wife in bed but is awakened by a loud bang. He buckles up in fear of a possible plane crash. Shortly afterwards, the back of the plane is torn off, luggage starts getting sucked out and the plane crashes. 8 people including Otway survive the crash. However, a young oil worker, Lewandon, dies of his injuries as Otway sadly watches. Taking charge, Otway sets the survivors on the task of building a fire. While doing this he discovers a corpse, and is attacked by the grey wolf feeding on it. After saving Otway, the group surmises that they are in the wolves' territory. They decide to take turns keeping watch for the predators. Later Hernandez is killed by 2 wolves. Otway suggests they leave the crash site but Diaz questions his leadership. While searching for the wallets of their deceased colleagues intending to return them to their families, Diaz finds an emergency wristwatch containing a radio beacon. The group then leaves the site. While walking, Flannery falls behind and is killed by wolves. One of them spots a pack of wolves approaching and the survivors run for the trees, lighting a fire in an attempt to ward off their attackers. The group sets about producing makeshift weaponry. Stressed, Diaz loses his cool somewhat, and belligerently threatens Otway with a knife but is quickly disarmed, and ultimately begins regretting his actions. Just as HE's about to apologize, HE's suddenly pounced upon by a wolf from behind. An omega wolf sent by the alpha wolf to test them. Otway later surmises after all managing to kill it and then roasting it for food. A bloodied and crazed Diaz, elated at having survived the attack, beheads the corpse, and loudly howling like a wolf defiantly throws the severed head back at the pack. A move noted by the group as possibly unwise as they accept a statement that wolves are known to take revenge. While sitting around the fire, Diaz tells the group of his atheism, and Talgett states he believes in God and lovingly talks about his daughter. Otway states he is also an atheist but wishes he could believe or have faith. Otway then recites a simple poem written by his father. A blizzard approaches, and the survivors set to maintaining the fire while some get some rest. The following morning, Burke, who had earlier been suffering from hypoxia, is found dead. The remaining survivors leave the camp and travel to the edge of a steep canyon. Hendrick secures a line across to a tall tree opposite, and Diaz. Talgett, however, is afraid of heights and with the added handicap of a bleeding, mangled hand. When his foot becomes caught on a hook in the ensuing struggle, the rope breaks away. He falls to the ground, getting severely thrashed by tree branches on the way down, barely alive. He hallucinates a vision of his daughter but is instantly set upon and dragged away by 4 wolves. While attempting to save Talgett, Diaz falls from the tree and badly injures his knee. Diaz, Otway and Hendrick continue and arrive at a river. There Diaz, humbled by his journey and unable to walk on, explains that he can accept dying in the middle of nature and will not try to keep running. They part company, leaving a tearful Diaz contemplating the glorious mountainous vista and his resigned fate. Reluctantly, Otway and Hendrik continue on together. Further along the river, Otway and Hendrik are set upon by the wolves. In an attempt to flee, Hendrik falls into the river and in the chaos is trapped beneath the surface. When his foot gets wedged between boulders, Otway attempts to save him but unable to pull him loose, Hendrik soon drowns. Frustrated and now alone, Otway looks up and appeals to God for help to show him something real, but soon realizes the futility of his plea. Otway, cold and wet, continues on alone. Exhausted, he stops walking and begins going through the collected wallets of the others. Otway then realizes he has stumbled right into the wolves' den, and that the team had been steadily walking towards, not away from, the source of danger. Surrounded by the pack, he looks at his wife's photo in his wallet. It is then revealed that she was dying of a terminal illness. As the large, snarling alpha wolf approaches him, Otway arms himself with a knife and shards of glass from small liquor bottles taped to his other hand. After reciting his father's poem once more, he lunges at the alpha wolf. In a brief post-credits scene, the wolf is seen lying injured on the ground and breathing softly, with the back of Otway's head visible resting on the wolf. While also breathing, it is not made clear whether he has been mortally wounded, or if he will indeed survive. Production. The Grey reunited director Joe Carnahan with producers Ridley Scott and Tony Scott, as well as actor Liam Neeson, who collaborated on the 2010 action film The A-Team. The film initially imagined a much younger lead character, and Bradley Cooper, who also worked with Carnahan on The A-Team, was cast in the lead role, but he was eventually replaced by Neeson. Filming began in January 2011 and ended in March. The film was shot in 40 days. Though set in Alaska, the film was shot in Vancouver and Smithers, British Columbia, with several scenes being shot at the Smithers Regional Airport. According to Empire magazine, in the climactic scene in which Neeson's character pens a letter to his wife, Carnahan urged Neeson to channel his grief over the death of his own wife, Natasha Richardson. Carnahan disclosed, in AQ, that he had shot an alternative ending showing Neeson battling the alpha wolf. It was supposed to be included in deleted cuts, however no extras were included on the Blu-ray release. The world premiere of The Grey took place on January 11, 2012, at the Regal Cinemas Theatre in Los Angeles. The film was released nationwide on January 27, 2012. Marketing. Promotion for The Grey in part targeted Christian groups by issuing a film companion, which highlighted the spiritual value of the film. Marketing also partnered with the Weather Network to highlight the hazardous filming conditions. Open Road Films incorporated comments tweeted by film critics to promote the film in the third trailer for The Grey. This was the first time tweets from, and Twitter handles for professional critics had been used in a film trailer. Critical response. The Grey received positive reviews from critics, with particular praise going to Neeson's performance as well as Carnahan's direction and the film's atmosphere. The Grey has a certified fresh score of 78% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 192 reviews, with an average rating of 6.9/10. The site's critical consensus states, "The Grey is an exciting tale of survival populated with fleshed-out characters and a surprising philosophical agenda." On Metacritic, the film has a score of 64 out of 100. Based on 35 critics indicating generally favorable reviews. Roger Ebert gave the film 3.5 stars out of 4, and wrote that the unrelenting harshness of The Grey so affected him that he departed the screening. of a different movie on the same day. The film also earned a place on A.O. Scott's list of the year's 10 best films, and Slate film critic Dana Stevens included it in her runners-up for the year's best movies. Film critic Richard Roeper also had The Grey in his top 10 best movies of 2012 list, placing it at number 3. Dissenters' reviews tend to focus on the film's abrupt ending, and perceive the emotional and philosophical undertones as unnecessary. Siobhan Sinnott of The Scotsman gave the film 2 stars, commenting that on the downside, there's a lot of dull, pretentious philosophizing about the heartlessness of nature and God. On the upside, you get to see a man punch a wolf in the face. Some reviewers and analysts have described the film as having an atheist theme due to characters such as John Otway pleading for divine help but not getting any. Controversy. On January 19, 2012, British Columbia's The Province featured an article about the movie's crew buying 4 wolf carcasses from a local trapper, 2 for props for the film and 2 wolves for the cast to eat. This angered environmentalists and animal activists, who were already irate that the film depicts wolves in a negative light, specifically at a time when grey wolves had recently been removed from the Endangered Species Act in many Western American states. In response to the portrayal of wolves in the film, groups including PETA and Wild Earth Guardians started drives to boycott the film. Open Road responded by placing a fact sheet about the grey wolf on the film's official website with cooperation from the Sierra Club. Carnahan responded by downplaying the significance of the violent wolves portrayed in the film, instead highlighting the significance of man's internal struggle for survival. Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Would you like to know more?